Everybody, this is Perch. Lots of talk, lots of questions, lots of thoughts. How do you enjoy comics more, especially if comics are making it a little bit hard to do so at times? So here's a viewer question he's got asking about comics, about how to enjoy them. Can comics be enjoyed in a vacuum? It says, so I was bored on YouTube one day. I like you just get right into it. I was bored on YouTube one day and ended up watching Comics Explained videos about Hickman's time runs out line, and I remembered why I liked it so much when I read it. I eventually found the breakdown of Hydra Steve Rogers, and I remembered the shitstorm that followed all the way through Secret Empire. After listening to his unbiased opinion about it in the wider political atmosphere of the time, I found I liked it a lot. I'm actually considering buying the entire trade volume of everything from Avengers Standoff to Secret Empire. Hearing that whole story arc 6 years later and done in a way that was devoid of any political baggage that it had at the time, it sounds great. Captain America had done everything, and having an injustice-like version of Captain America sounds like a brand new take. Granted, they couldn't have paid enough for all the publicity they got at the time, but I admit that at the time I was entirely turned away that it was so politically charged. Yet here I am 6 years later thinking it was amazing. My question is, do you think we should read comics more in a void, away from all the outside noise, or am I just the victim of hype man and these stories were just bad? I'd love to hear your thoughts. So, yeah, it's a funny one. So I think, okay, so I'll say it. Secret Empire was not as terrible as your memory might have it. I think that there were big flaws with it. I think the biggest flaw probably was the the ending, how they got out of that situation was a mess. And I think the series in general, the actual Secret Empire business of the series was a major problem. Captain America turning evil, turning Hydra was interesting. It felt like what happened was that people said, "Hey, this isn't the real Captain America," or "He's been brainwashed," or "the Cosmic Cube did something to him, and they've got to unbrainwash him," whatever. And Nick Spencer's like, "Nope, this is the real Cap." And then had to do kind of some bizarre gymnastics to say, well, see, the Cosmic Cube, it rewrote his history and made him a sleeper agent, and therefore this has always been the real Cap. But it hadn't always been the real Cap, obviously. The Cosmic Cube altered reality. Cosmic Cube can re-alter reality. So it's this entire thing of like, nope, the Captain America has always been this way, but this is the real Captain America, and then there's another Captain America that was born out of the dreams, blah, blah, blah. That was the goofy part, as well as the story was framed around an Inhuman who could vomit up things. In this case, connecting it to the Inhumans was a horrible mistake, just like almost everything to do with the Inhumans during this time period. But this had an Inhuman that would vomit up Cosmic Cube pieces. So there were just some goofy aspects to it. I think that was the problem. But overall, the story isn't as bad as you probably remember. I think the lead up of, hey, Captain America's been brainwashed. It's a secret threat. It's going to come from a place you never thought it would come from, and he's doing little shenanigans out there. That wasn't terrible. It was, heroes get brainwashed. Heroes get transformed all the time. I mean, it's Cap's turn. That's not necessarily a bad thing. But what did make it bad, and you identified it, is, around 2016, this other thing happened in American politics that caused everybody to lose their, effing minds. And, Nick Spencer was not immune from that. I think Spencer what was the deal with him? He ran for office as a Republican, but then he switched to Democrat, or he hated Trump, or I don't remember exactly the drama that got it there. But I do remember that Spencer went pretty aggressive on Twitter against Trump. And there's at least a lot of speculation kind of within comics and with retailers that he was doing that because at one point he had run as a Republican in his former political life. And the belief was if he didn't, go really, really aggressive in denouncing the evils of Trump, that, people would attack him and it would cause a big issue. And he's probably right on that front because, when he went to Substack, and there was this, Substack was this bizarre, there's this bizarre timeline on Substack where, he goes over there and then they start giving out deals. I think James Tinian got a deal. And there was this brief window where a lot of the kind of independents, the smaller names, were like, hey, where's my deal? And it's like, oh, there's no deal for you. The deals are for the bigger people. And then the smaller people immediately turned on Substack as a transphobic, anti-hate platform, white supremacy, because there was some they basically gave out contracts to a number of different people. I think Glenn Greenwald was the one, because he's appeared on Tucker Carlson, so he is clearly a member of the Klan. So I mean, this is how these things go. So then suddenly the whole thing flips, and then everybody starts bringing out the woodwork. It's like, oh, how about that Nick Spencer guy, the closet Republican who he's not fooling anyone. And then they even turned his Secret Empire storyline. Like he did a storyline about how much he really wanted the U.S. to be invaded by fascism. It's like, no, that was Captain America was a bad guy in that storyline. You big dumbass. Captain America was evil. It wasn't. It was not wish fulfillment story writing. But anyway, there was a bunch of people who did that, and then everybody kind of figured out that Substack wasn't really going to be any kind of impact on anything, and sound like some of those advanced bonuses are being reduced or going away, and then nobody cares anymore. So there's the conclusion to that epic tale. You're better off if you can ignore it, sure. Like I've said in other videos, it doesn't help. And I think some storylines get actively hurt because Trump was elected, and because it was seen, and it wasn't just it was seen. I mean, Spencer at the time made comments that the storyline had an allegory to Trump, and to what was going on in the U.S. at the time and everything else. And of course, then what was going on in the comics was this fascist Hydra takeover of schools with people with guns in them, and everything else. And so of course it people who were pro-Trump felt like it was a shot at them, and it probably was. And so seeing Captain America as a sleeper agent was now you're saying that Trump is a sleeper agent of Hydra, or the Nazis, or I don't know if the Masons. I'm not sure, but anyway, that's how that all unfolded. But the storyline itself was not bad. The storyline was hurt absolutely by the events that were going on at the time, and with some of these things, go back and revisit them. Some hold up better than you think. Some are worse. Definitely, I would say that it's like Fear itself, still worse. I feel bad because I get along reasonably well with Matt, but God, that was an awful comic. Anyway, so yeah, I think if you could avoid it, avoid it. Certainly, anything that's going to be torn from the headlines of today is something better to be read maybe down the road a little bit when the nerves and emotions are not so real. I please don't mistake me, by the way. Secret Empire was not any kind of, at least for me, was not any kind of amazing, epic storyline for the ages. One that be remembered as one of the best events Marvel has ever done. Not by a mile. I think again the lead up to the event was not bad. The actual event was pretty garbage in certain areas, and I think. At that point, it felt like Spencer was just trying to get out of the entire thing as fast as he could. We were a couple of years into it, but that was following up on Civil War II as well. So some events also are better when isolated from other things that are going on in the comics, let alone outside factors or whatever's going on with the creators. So Civil War II was also such an absolute turd of an event that you had Secret Empire follow that up, and it was just that was also awful. And so yeah, just some lousy stuff. Anyway, hope that answers your question. I'm curious if any of the rest of you have recently reread Secret Empire and found that it wasn't actually as bad as you might have remembered, because I think it's true. The comics are like that sometimes. Sometimes they age better, and what's funny in this weird way, and this is just being way too kind to Secret Empire, of which I've been kind of throughout this whole video, but here's one more little bit of kindness. Aspects of that story, the bonkers kind of goofy parts to Secret Empire, do remind you of the comics of the early 80s, where some of the logic was kind of out the window and they were just doing random stuff, and it's fine. There definitely were aspects of that too, where it was a complicated comic. That would be a good one to do, like a re-review now, and maybe I will. I'll do that. I'll just I've been wanting to pick up more comics and just review them, and rather than review new comics, going back and looking at some of the old ones might not be the worst idea in the world. Anyway, thank you very much for the mail. Curious what all of you think. Like and subscribe, of course, as always, and thanks for listening.